So Kyle, please there. Natasha, you're here and your water's down on the floor right here.
Thank you. I'm in the middle over here?
Yes, thank you. And Keegan, right there, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Hi, I'm Xana Williams. I'm the festival panels producer. Welcome to Cinema Café, our morning panel series where we feature intimate conversations with outstanding people like Keegan-Michael and Natasha Lyonne. Very exciting. We have an excellent program this year of panels. Please come back tomorrow where we will be speaking with Melanie Linsky and Imogen Poots. The following day will be D.A. Penner-Baker and Chris Hedges. And then on Saturday morning, we have Duke Johnson, we have Charlie Kaufman and Joe Passarelli. And so without further ado, I will introduce our moderator, Kyle Buchanan, senior editor at New York Magazine.
Thanks for coming, everybody. Hopefully Sundance hasn't run you too ragged. Listen, this is going to be a treat. We've got two amazing people here, Natasha Lyonne and Keegan-Michael, both very funny people, very thoughtful people, very smart people. They're here in different capacities. Natasha's got 3 movies at the Fest, and Keegan has been on...
No movies. Not a single freaking movie.
But you're the decision maker. You were on the shorts jury this year, and so we're going to talk about that. But let me just start with something simple. Tell me about your first Sundance experience.
Geez, I don't know if I remember. I mean, definitely, it was the 90s.
The 90s. Yeah.
It was so deep in the 90s that I was here dating my boyfriend. I was here with my boyfriend, Eddie Furlong.
Oh,
You
shoot.
guys,
Eddie. Yeah, that's the 90s.
You guys remember Eddie Furlong?
That's the 90s.
And let me tell you something, the
That's
two
the
of
deep
us
cut.
fucking came here, and I mean, we demolished this place. We were like, I mean, I was like 18, he was 20. There's pictures of us from here, like both like, just like smoking cigarettes indoors. Both of us are like so pale, so strung out, so skinny. I mean, not yet, really, but we were headed there. And really just like youth. But like, you know, but we were kind of like, we were just real teenagers. Like the pictures almost look like they could just be 100 years old. Because they're also like, they're on film. And just in general, I don't know for sure what movie I was here with. I want to say I was here with But I'm a Cheerleader, which is obviously wild because now I'm here with Clea Duvall's Intervention. And she wrote, directed, produced, starred in it. And again, I play her girlfriend like always. And yeah, but I just remember it being very, very blurry, is my point. Like, it totally, I mean, I was like 18, now I'm 36. I remember it being like very, you know, just smoky and like drunk and like 5 a.m. It was a totally different thing. There was no digital photography.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? There was no, like, there was no celebrity, really. I mean...
It's like pre-swag suite, right?
Yeah.
There was like, you could get a t-shirt. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
Like a Diesel t-shirt. Like one. You know?
At every single suite. It's just a Diesel t-shirt.
And like, they took like a picture of you on like their real camera.
Or a Polaroid, yeah. Or
Yeah.
like a portable camera.
And you never saw it. You never saw it. A great time to be a wasted teenager here. In essence. Like, now that would be a fucking nightmare.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Keegan, your first time was 3 years ago, right? You were
First
here
time,
for
yeah, and-
Afternoon Delight in Hell, Baby, I think?
Afternoon Delight in Hell, Baby, right? And I would go, I'm gonna go with blurry, but also rickety, like you feel rickety. And it's the thing is like altitude sickness is no joke, that's real. When you wake up in the middle of the night like, and your heart is like, and you're like, did my doppelganger do cocaine for me? Why do I feel this way? No, and I feel ashamed. I mean, I was ashamed because my father was from Salt Lake, and so like, I should know, but like I should be able to do the altitude. And then, but those 2 movies were great, and I was here with Tom Lennon and Ben Garant, and then of course the incomparable Jill Soloway, which is just that experience alone, watching the film was one of the best things. But going up and down, there's such an energy here that when people talk about festival energy, this place has that energy in spades. And so I had a wonderful time. I mean, I think that 5 a.m. stuff was getting me through because like if you walk outside and it's 6 degrees below zero, you're gonna wake up. So you're gonna wake up. But yeah, it was those the camaraderie and meeting people and just everybody celebrating film all at the same time it was fantastic. It really was.
Well, Natasha, talk about being here in a different capacity this year because you're here with your first
I'm
produced
not sure that
effort.
I'm done talking about the other stuff.
No, go ahead.
I mean, we were so in love, and we were like so.
I want to hear more about Eddie.
We
Yeah.
were
there.
so like violent about it, like teenage. Like I just remember like scenes at bars, like deep Sundance, and just like Michael Stipe everywhere. You know what I mean? Because it was so 90s out, and he was always there, and I was always like would sort of like see him from across the room and be ashamed, and be like fighting with Eddie, throwing drinks. Anyway, so yeah, now it's different. Now it's very. It's amazing. I do wonder. I mean, I'm genuinely perplexed how I mean, I would never be able to survive that now. I just feel now I'm like an old Jewish person. Very proud and moved, especially, given my wild history. I mean, if you had told me like 5-10 years ago that I would suddenly be here with 3 movies and like sort of like re-accepted by like the community of my peers who I really want to work with, and that everything was going to be okay, and that, or even just the idea that I was going to be able to like show up and stay like mentally consistent, and I don't mean like, I mean, for me what that really looks like is just, I guess just like not wasted. I don't mean like, that I'm like such a up and down person or something, but just that I would really be able to like show up at everything on time and have it not be so high stakes, and just like be here with these amazing movies. It's just a very different, just like speaking as an adult, it's just such a wild thing to have such a different experience of the same place. You
And
know?
it's crazy when you're younger. There are times that I think to myself, if I had the career that I'm having now at 23 years old, I would have made it to 26.
Yeah.
But not a joke. Like I'd be dead.
Yeah.
It's too much. It does too much to a young person. And somebody who shall remain nameless was telling me a story about somebody else who shall remain nameless on a television show that shall remain nameless. That the second person, it's like it's tough when you're a kid, and if your definition of God or a God is a being that can make things come into being, and then people just do that for you when you're 13 or 15 or 21, that's some crazy shit. That you can just go, I think I need tap shoes right now. And an assistant runs off and buys you tap shoes? Not how humans are supposed to function. Like, not how a young human who has no impulse
in general,
control.
In a way, it's like a really, ego is kind of like the death of the arts.
Absolutely.
In a way. I mean,
absolutely.
And it's really like a problematic conundrum, because you. It's almost like the whole dance, becomes like you can only really retain a sense of like, inspiration or excitement, like just as soon as you become like, like a narcissistic egomaniac, which is in any of us. I'm sure any of you guys who are like, artistically wired, it's like it is sort of part of that makeup. And I think if you become like too much in that space, you get like very sort of entitled, and then you stop being sort of the real deal, and that gets very tricky.
Yeah. It's a real tightrope, yeah.
Well, if ego can be death, then is independent filmmaking sort of a reality check? Because you're making these low-budget features for,
well, for
in
sure.
tiny trailers,
And,
bring your own wardrobe.
Beyond that, like, the particular experience of being here with the movies I'm with. Obviously, this movie, Clea's movie, Intervention. Clea is one of my best friends of like 20 years but I'm a cheerleader. I mean, I found that script. She was just like giving me a ride. I was a New Yorker. I would always come to LA and be like, I need a ride. I would go to auditions and be like, what, was there any taxis around here? You give me a ride, kid. And she had like a script on a passenger seat floor. I said, what is this movie? Can I be in this movie? And then I was. That was like the 90s independent. I remember Jamie Babbitt, the director, being like, I don't know, she seems sort of like a tough guy. It's kind of like Joe Pesci, and we need her to be like, a blonde cheerleader. I'm like, don't worry about it, all right? I'll fucking do it when I get there. Hey, you don't fucking worry, all right? You just tell me where to show up. And I did. And the other one I'm here with is Anti-Birth, which is this movie I produced. This guy, Danny Perez, who's a great sort of a visual experimental artist. He's had shows at the Guggenheim. I know him from music. I used to date the Animal Collective tour manager. This guy, Brad, it was not a great relationship. And he was a real Eddie Furlong. And so then I produced this movie. I really Danny and I went around for like 5 years trying to get this thing made. He wrote the part for me, and also for Chloe Sevigny, who's of course like my other, like these are like my two tightest friends on the planet who've been through everything with me. So just the experience of being here with them is like hugely grounding. It's like everything that independent movies are about. It just feels so like it's like beyond personal. I mean, it's downright life affirming, and it's very good news, you know?
Well, talk about producing, because Keegan, you and I were talking about that a little bit earlier, you know, sort of taking meetings, being here in that capacity. I've got to imagine that for actors, it's really gratifying to be able to take charge of your career, to make things happen for yourself.
Yeah, I don't think it's a mistake that you find actors starting production companies all the time. The second they can wield just a bit of power, so that you're not just a kind of a hired gun. And if you have the opportunity to be in control of what the vision of something will be and collaborate with other people that have that same vision, it's like the best way of being. It's like being in an artistic army, because everybody's trying to win the war. Everyone's trying to go to that same goal. And sometimes it's okay. Sometimes, look, you just want to be a soldier. Just want to come and learn the lines and have a blast with other people, interact and have that connection. But sometimes I like being on a big team. And there's another tightrope to walk, which is the challenge of being able to bifurcate your mind and think about two different things at the same time. So one is, be here now with this actress. Just be here with this person. And then 2 minutes from now, when you go sit in your chair, then you can think about, we're never going to make our day. You know what I mean? So, but there's, to me, that somehow can be a wonderful challenge. And it always, very often, it always works out anyway, because as long as the why is solidified, as long as the circle of why is something everybody's agreeing on, you're going to get it done. And you're going to get it done your way. But then there are other people who enjoy the challenge of going, I have friends who will go, I will take every note the studio gives me, and my challenge to myself is, I'm going to find a way to work the note so I'm okay with it. And then you have other friends who go, fuck your notes. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, okay, that's your decision. and I hope you make it through round 2 or whatever the case may be. But so having that control, it's not everything, but it's satisfying. It's satisfying to know that you put your head on the pillow and go, that's exactly the movie that we wanted to make. Not just I wanted to make, that we wanted to make. Yeah.
Well, Natasha, how do you get a movie like Antibirth made? Because this is not a conventional movie. This is a funky movie.
Oh, yeah,
a lot of
this
shit
movie
goes
is,
down in this movie.
This movie's a real scene.
A real scene?
This is
Yeah,
like
this is
this is one of the craziest movies in a long time.
This thing's in the pocket.
This thing is like, it's one of these things where I'm like, all right, we're all gonna watch this. And at the same time, I'm like, we're all gonna watch this fucking movie. I feel very, I can't believe that it's being so well received. Like that they're really, all my excitement is really just for Danny when I'm saying that. We had such fantasies of him as like, this lady is really
Okay, there,
like a young
the
pet.
90s.
Yeah, I know what you're into.
She just cried.
Been there, done that, kid. Anyway, so Danny is amazing, and they really are. They're like sort of referring to him as like all of our, wet dreams, and making it of like a young Cronenberg, a young David Lynch, One thing. But it's just been very exciting. I mean, I was gonna say one thing really said. I know this is almost embarrassing because I read it, but as a producer, they send me all these things. But it said it makes Amy Schumer and Trainwreck look like Doris Day and the Singing Nun, and it really is like that fucking nuts. I mean, and first of all, like I love Schumer, but I'm just saying that it's really like beyond anything sort of like palatable or consumable, and it's just fucking insane.
Do you want to tell people what it's about and
well,
give them a little hint of what goes down?
Yeah, I mean, it's like sort of like a paranoid, sort of like I don't know, a drug-fueled kind of psychedelic adventure into the mind of this lunatic, Danny Perez, and I am like a real fucking degenerate wastoid, like, worse than me. And is the best way I could put it. And, just like fucking, I mean, I guess the thing with me is like I always had like this sort of like inner, whatever that's called, arrow or a pull of like a compass of like, this is what I'm into in life. I think this character, Lou, doesn't really have that. You know what I mean? She just sort of has like a hopelessness, almost like that documentary Oxiana about, Oxy in America, like obliterating small towns, hopelessness, and anyway, then she wakes up one day and she's knocked up, feels funny, giant fucking pussy blister on her foot, and it's just like then a series of bad things happen to her, like Rodney Dangerfield in Jacob's Ladder instead of Tim Robbins or something. Like it's just really out.
No one has ever said that sentence.
But
before.
it's like out to lunch.
You just described the movie.
I am just so proud of him that he pulled it off and that like people really. Don't get me wrong, a lot of people walked out. But it was kind of like satisfying. Some people stuck with it.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, you're satisfied,
Like,
right?
well, my own friends kind of, and like the people I guess that I care about that have seen it, seem to really be like they're still like texting me about it, like how
how it's
sick
affected
it was.
them and how disgusting. Yeah.
Yeah, just that there's like never been a movie like that before. I mean, it's sort of the whole. And I would say, sort of in terms of what Key is talking about, like as a producer on that movie, we shot it low budget in Canada, and that's sort of the anxiety feeling of what you're describing, which is like you are all too aware of the low budget problems you're having. So, for example, like I know that we only have like one foot prosthetic to get the fucking thing in, and that the AD is already screaming at us because we're going over time. The fact that he hates Danny, the director, because like Danny's smoking weed and blasting music between takes, like it's a bad, so that kind of awareness is sort of like then you have to shut down and then perform as somebody who's like oblivious to all that. You know?
As if it's not going on.
Yeah.
But it's fun if you can achieve it. When you achieve it, you're like, oh, I did that. I was there with my scene partner, and now I can go, we'll deal with this other challenge over here. A challenge should always be seen as an opportunity.
Well, it's like in each, I'm guessing this is your experience too, but like you need to kind of like figure out a way, like almost like you're saying with notes, like figure out a way to have stuff like serve you and kind of engine you.
Exactly.
Is really like the difference, it seems like, between like, like people that die and fall out and people that somehow fucking by the skin of their teeth make it. Is like you have to find a way to incorporate that into your engine rather than just being defeated by, it's just endless. Like there's so many disappointments in the experience of like doing this for a living, and like many heartbreaks along the way, and like shame and regret, and like, if you can let that somehow, those like notes and like those challenges be your engine, is very helpful.
That's why I was saying that compass, make sure that you have that compass of why, like the why you're doing it will always be helpful because otherwise you have to know that this is going to be a tough journey, but it's going to be worth it. Why is it going to be worth it? And then you have to have your answer. And like I was saying, if 50 people in the crew all have that answer, it'll be a little easier. But I know what you're saying. Yeah, you have to know what's going to fuel the engine. Why? Yeah.
Well, and I always think about like, and I'm sure everybody, certainly at a place like Sundance has the same fantasy, like this sort of like Easy Rider, Raging Bulls kind of fantasy shit. Like, or if you've ever read that Cassavetes on Cassavetes, or like, what that sort of 70s fantasy of like what filmmaking must have been like in the way like guys like Rafelson and, whoever, as Scorsese, the way these guys were like, fueled sort of. Altman always seemed sort of like a nice guy, so not really him so much. Bob Evans or something.
Bob Evans,
you know what I mean? Like that they were just
or
like
Rafelson,
sort of,
like you said.
they
definitely.
were powered by kind of like, cocaine and integrity. And by the way, I know I'm referencing a lot of, drugs. I mean, I'm obviously not a drug person anymore, but I just mean in the general sense of almost like what they represent. Obviously, in case anybody needs to know, like drugs are really bad for you, so you shouldn't do them and just say no, etc. But really, I mean, like, they'll take you off your path and waste years of your life. But anyway, but in general, like what they represent is almost like rebelling against the system. I think that's why they seem sexy in the first place. It's like a way of saying, you're not gonna fucking tell me what to do. It's my life. And so I think the fuel of sort of like an Easy Rider's Raging Bull is kind of this idea of like, like cocaine and integrity. Like we're not gonna let them like shut us down. We're gonna do it our way because
this has to be seen in through my lens.
I don't know if you experience this, but like it feels like our community is getting like smaller and smaller all the time. Of like it is starting to feel like very much what that era was of like everybody kind of knows each other and gets to work with each other a little bit, which is also cool.
Well, how has the independent film era changed since you were here in your Eddie Furlong days? I mean, a lot has happened. Now we have new buyers like Netflix and Amazon moving in on things. There are some people who think the independent film world is shrinking, and then others find more opportunity. Have you found that to be the case? Either one of those?
Yeah.
It's harder for me. I mean, a movie that I'm producing right now there's lots of kind of traditional channels that we're going to. The most non-traditional stuff is what's happening on the other side of it, right? It is the Netflix and Amazon stuff where you go, oh yeah, it's opened up. We could sell this to almost anybody, hopefully. But it's new. It's a new frontier for me on this side of it, in a new regard, like getting the financing and figuring out what all that does and how that works and what's the best way to finesse that when you're meeting with people and why should we pick them over them and should I go with my gut or read put them on paper next to each other. That's the stuff that I'm doing right now that's really, really more new for me because I've been working with studios and working with networks. But on the other side, what I feel has happened is we've come almost full circle to the beginning of this industry altogether. Because remember, in the beginning, the technology was a Nickelodeon, and everybody had a Nickelodeon on every single corner, and you just go zip, 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 and throw your 5 cents in there. And now everyone has a camera. Anybody right here can make a movie right now.
One of the biggest films at Sundance last year was shot on an iPhone.
Shot on an iPhone,
right?
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I think that I believe it's an expansive thing where we're coming back. We started in the Wild Wild West, and because of technology, we've come back to the Wild Wild West. And the good thing is the Wild Wild West is also existing on the back end of the project, which is these streaming things. It's given us more liberty that we didn't have before. So it has changed in that regard, yeah.
I'm curious about both of you making sort of a brave decision to leave your television shows at your peak. Now you are, sort of full-time in movies. How do you make that decision? Is it a sort of a ballsy move, and what goes into that?
I'll answer for Natasha.
I mean, listen, television is incredible. It really is. I just in a general way answer that question, which is just Orange is the New Black has been like an incredible experience for me. And, there's two great things about it as it affects certainly independent filmmaking, which is one, suddenly you become sort of like financeable as a commodity, which is just, the reality of how like movies get made. And even if you're sometimes like disappointed and wondering, why is this really lame person constantly in movies? That's so annoying. I really wanted to see this. It's, because of like lists, so it's just, the popularity of a television show really helps that, and the other thing is it really like, for me, the experience of Orange is the New Black has been like huge as an actor. It's been like my dream of what I almost thought. It's almost like what I would fantasize it would be of like theater in a weird way, which is like you get so used to it that you stop, you forget that you're acting, which is really, at its best. I think even like sort of why people love Bill Murray so much is he's just so fucking relaxed. Like, whoever it is that lives between like Bill Murray and Jack Nicholson is like the dream state of an actor.
That's a perfect way of putting it. That's a perfect way of putting it.
Even when like, shit is hitting the fan, they're still a little bit like, all right, let's deal with this. And what happens over time on a TV show like that is you get so used to it, you get very tired, and you really know what you're doing, so you just get fucking relaxed. And then you're able to bring that experience with you into other things, both in terms of them being very scary and new, and that's exciting, and also in terms of like, you have a touchstone of let me remember what that feeling is like, of not trying to like impress people at the monitor who are strangers to me, but more like, I know I can do this thing, and so therefore I can be on my back foot, which ends up, I think, seeming better on screen.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That goes back to your producing question too. Is like if you're not trying to impress the people behind the monitors, if they're not there, if you're the person who has to go and run behind the monitor, it's you. So you only have to serve the project. For me, the big thing was when I was. For me, it's just almost as simple as it's what I always wanted to do. I can think of what are some of the happiest moments in my life. Sitting next to my father and my mother in the middle of foul play, and Goldie Hawn pulling the book out in the library and the albinos on their side, and my mom screaming and throwing chuckles in the air. And then me watching a movie as like a young adult, or as a teenager, not as a child. Like the things that motivate us and make us cry as a child are different than when we're a little bit older. So being like 13 or 14 and seeing Karate Kid and crying in a way I didn't understand. I didn't understand I was being inspired. I'm like, this is a new, these tears taste different than just sad, scared tears. What are these tears? And then, and like sitting with my friend, sitting next to a biker, like a gnarly Harley biker, and this dude is just during Rain Man, or walking out of Angel Heart with my friend David, and we're both like, only cinema does it. TV's starting to do it because, but TV's, it's almost like they want to take in a longer roller coaster ride, and I get it. But it literally is just a dream that I had, and it doesn't feel real that you get to do this or that these opportunities are happening. So is it scary? It is, but it's like, isn't it scarier if you don't take the opportunity to try to make a dream you have come true? That's almost scarier, because I could just sit on the sidelines, but Jordan and I both decided this is not the way we want to go. We want to be finished. We were very British about it. We're done. 5 years, we're done. Here's the ending, we're finished. And everyone goes, oh, we're so sad, we're so sad. I'm like, but you'd be more sad if we had 7 seasons, and then you went, oh, God, I feel like I've seen this scene before, but now they're just doing it in a desert. You know what I mean? Oh, no, they're just on a spaceship. How many times can these guys say bitch? And because you know what I mean? It's like you feel it. There's a trajectory, like a cosmic trajectory to your life, and you should heed that trajectory. And so that's. Am I scared? Fuck yeah, I'm scared.
I mean, there's just like Keegan said, there's like a romance to movies that are just for some reason never going to go away. I think
it won't go away.
It's almost like like sitting in your car alone and you're just like listening to the fucking perfect song, and it's just there's something like so personal and like complete about that experience. And it's true, just like only fucking movies do that. Yeah. I mean, the way you can also, just even think about the fact that it's great. Like, I recently showed my boyfriend Out of the Blue. I was a very confusing litmus test that he hadn't seen it. And Out of the Blue that, Dennis Hopper directed with Linda Mann's in it, and so good. And you can really only sort of share that, like, here's like an hour and a half. You're gonna fucking sit here. We're gonna turn it on. And an hour and a half, you're gonna know what I'm about on like a very deep level that much more.
Yep.
You can't really do that. Like a TV show is obviously, you guys can sort of like be on, maybe something, I don't know, something like that.
But it's funny that you said that, because just last night we finished giving out the awards for the shorts. Yeah. And then a little bit later, a person who's extremely important to me, and their opinion is extremely important to me, watched the short that we gave the grand jury prize. And I was like, oh no, what happens if this person doesn't like this movie? Yeah. You know what I mean? And of course that person did like the movie, and I'm like, oh yeah, I have good decision-making skills. But you're right, it gets to that point. Like I want to, and the relaxation you're talking about, it's the craft part too, is, I used to go, oh man, you're in the movie, and when you get red light fever sometimes, and red light fever is when you're like, wow, I'm so in my head right now.
Yeah.
Just talk to him. Just talk to her. And just, you got stuff in your mind. And I remember I was just thinking in a shot. I was just doing reshoots for this Berbiglia movie, and we're just walking down the streets in the East Village, and people just backing up and go, get the fuck out of my way. What the fuck you guys writing? And we're just backing up, and I'm just walking, and Mike's just like, just don't do anything. Just don't do anything. But I didn't. I thought about something completely different from the movie. He was like, that was perfect. See how you were doing nothing? Mm-hmm. It's like, wasn't doing nothing. Just wasn't thinking about being in a movie while I was making the movie. And that's part of the craft. Like you'll the more you do it, you'll just get better and better. So I want to get better and better.
I had one of those, like, I remember with Kevin Corrigan, Slums Beverly Hills, yeah. And I was like so obsessed with him. He was like I'm
still obsessed with him. He's
Kevin
amazing.
Corrigan, Jesus Christ, and his Charles Manson T-shirt. And it was just that thing of like you're talking about, which is you just can't, you just so much want it to be like the ultimate fucking scene. You want to like say everything in your soul. And you also, I'm guessing for us, like have in common that we're both sort of like naturally, funnier than like probably we even mean to be. It sounds like based on this conversation, not knowing you too well, like there's a lot that, you end up becoming there's so much like that you actually feel and stuff. But for some reason, the way it gets articulated, once it's on screen is like, just fucking like big eyes, you know what I mean? Right, so it's just funnier. Like it's just so like reactions are like I'm never gonna be fucking Sam Shepard. I could try to Jessica Lange fucking all day, but that's just not how I'm built,
Right. No,
so you want to fucking tell it all, but it's like still like it's a lighter tone. So it's just very.
There's a filter. Very often, talent, literally, sometimes talent, is how your skull is shaped and how the skin goes over the top of it. That's part of your talent. No. It really, like, some people have eyebrows that just make them look like a bitch, and so they just have bitch eyebrows.
Or
There's
like
nothing else you can do
Jenna
about it.
Rollins, it's gonna come on screen and you're like immediately like fucking heartbroken. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. Before
It's
she
just,
said a word. Yeah.
Whatever you say, I like
Yeah.
fucking believe you. You know?
And so there's something to that. That's something that's fascinating to me. That but if you have bitch eyebrows, you'll also work forever, because you know what you're gonna do. The problem is you just if you keep getting a job after job after job in cinema as bitch, you playing a bitch, you play a bitch, you play a bitch, you may as well be on a TV show.
Yeah.
Because it's almost as if you're playing the same character with different wigs. And that's why you see actors always go, but I've got to do something different. I've got to do something different. I know I can make a seismic change inside of me that will allow me to play that role. Why can't I do it? I can do what Statham's doing. I can do it. I know I can do it. If I don't break my fucking leg. But,
Funny example. And he's the guy. He's the guy. I want to be like that guy.
But think about that. But think about how different that is from independent film.
I also even think about it like, the next step from that is like, is it even real? In other words, sometimes I think about these people like...
Is what real?
Well, like, Joe Pesci or De Niro... are so iconically sort of themselves in roles, even though they're, they play completely different characters. I often think a lot of it is just script and directors. It's like the quality of the film and the story I'm telling you. I mean, I always think like Jack Nicholson in 5 Easy Pieces, another good example.
Amazing.
Like, there's just certain people that are they really stay on a very similar
track.
Track. Like, I don't think of... sorry, I keep talking about him. I don't really think of Nicholson as a guy who's always doing a ton of accents or anything, or really even looking that different. It's just that something like the scripts are so good, the material's so good, and he's so good that they feel radically different.
Yeah,
and I often think about that too. Like, is that not sort of the great illusion of what they tell you certainly as an actor is like always be so different, and is it in fact not more of like find material that's going to support your specificness in new and original ways.
No, I like that.
Yeah, just because we are fucking built the way we are, like against our will. I mean, that's a problem with just life in general. You know what I mean? That's like a looking in the mirror kind of like, what a fucking bummer that I'm this guy again today. I mean, that's just like a daily horror show on top of a fucking movie making.
On top of movie making.
But you know what I mean? It's like, fucking this guy again?
No, yeah.
Oh, here we go again. I'm doing that thing. There goes another relationship. Yeah, no, this is me in a year and a half, asshole. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, but so, it's almost like, that's why you gotta find a new relationship.
Right?
You know what I mean? No, I'm just kidding.
Before I throw it open to questions, I wanted to ask you guys something. You're both film buffs, and I was having a pretty thoughtful conversation with Manola Dargis. She's the critic for The Times here at Sundance, and she was sort of bemoaning the fact that she'd seen all these movies where the female lead was just the love interest and sort of thinly drawn, didn't have her own motivations, etc. And she said something that's really stuck with me that I keep thinking, which is sometimes you have to love the movies even when they don't love you back. And I wonder, when you don't always see people who are like you on screen, I don't always see great gay characters on screen. You might be like tired of some of the love interests in movies. You might not be seeing black people in the lead roles that they ought to have. How do you...
Or even half black people.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And that's what's special about you.
Can't change that.
But it's
Don't
really...
wanna.
But you look at what the studios are making, and obviously this is a great, haven for independent film, but the studios aren't always greenlighting films that star people like us. And so I wonder, how do you keep that love when movies don't always love you back?
I think what you just said about scripts, sometimes if I will make sure that I tap into whatever the most human part of the story is. So that is it, which is what we've always done with our sketches. It's the same thing. It's like, look, you can wrap it in as much cultural stuff as you want. It doesn't matter if the person's from Iceland or Nigeria or Portugal. I love her and she doesn't love me back. Daddy, all I want is your acceptance. You know what I mean? So if I can hook into whatever the humanness of the story is, then there's two things I can appreciate. Is there humanness in the story? Or is the story thinly drawn? And then the second thing is, are you executing it in a way I've never seen before? And if you do that, I can hook into those things and then try as best I can to try to infiltrate and change minds, in the studio system. Little show, big business. So sometimes you have to think of it that way in that realm. So you have to say, okay, better do whatever I can to make money, because all they care about is money. So if I can make money and then have the hero of the film be a black woman, and I can convince you that it's going to make money, then I just have to keep doing that. That just has to be part of my job. I swear to God, if you put a black woman in this role, we will still make $14 squadrillion. I promise you.
Do you have to have those conversations with people sometimes?
I don't yet. You know what I often do? I spend more time just flashing my race card. I don't pull it out so much. It's just showing the holster. Oh, I have a gun. But you don't know whether or not I'm willing to use it. And so I will use, trust me, if I can help change the world, I'll use as much white guilt as I can. Because if you don't care, if the bottom line's making money, who cares? If you just want to make money, and then I promise you this will work. But then I have to write or be involved in it's got to be 5 Easy Pieces. Yeah. It's got to be Nashville. It's got to be those movies. You know what I mean? We think about movies from the 80s. Like I think about Beverly Hills Cop and 48 Hours. Okay, one of the great comedic geniuses of all time is in those films. But 48 Hours is a well-written film. Do you know what I'm saying? Beverly Hills Cop is a well-written film. It's not a comedy like a 90s comedy or even a turn-of-the-century comedy. People have to remember that. Like, people were straight writing the shit out of some scripts in the 80s. And that cinema verite stuff that came from early Mean Streets and early Scorsese and all that stuff, that bled into the 80s, bled in all the way into, Cimino and him being a crazy person before it went from writers to directors being like, I'm going to build my oeuvre and it's going to be amazing. So, yeah, I think as long as the humanness is there and as long as the story is uplifting, like you said, I can tolerate the film. And then just know that there's just more work to do.
Yeah, I mean, I would piggyback on that, and I would say, like you're saying, like sometimes, the subversive act is just, the very existence of like you in the role instead of, whoever, fucking, Tommy Nobody.
I love Tommy Nobody's
But you know
work.
what I mean? Like this fucking generic Sam or whatever. So like sometimes that becomes. Like, that is the fucking act of subversion, is you just show up and you're like, hey, no problem. All right, cool. So, right. And I'm his girlfriend. All right, let's do this.
Let's just do it, yeah.
Automatically, it's just, that much weirder. And then, that's, of course, like at the sort of studio level or like the being for hire level. And also why that's heartbreaking if you're, a bit of an outsider at all is, so often those opportunities aren't available to you. To do those great scripts and all that kind of stuff, and then of course the other like plan B becomes you make your own shit. That's really where it comes from. Is there's just that is the great news about like you're saying this sort of Nickelodeons to iPhones is we are in this time where the heartbreak is that a film used to mean something. It used to cost money. Like, the end of Raging Bull, and it's like that one take in the fucking mirror, like, could have been a contender, and it's like slow shots, fucking De Niro, and it's like a 7-minute take, and it's like, that's a full mag. Like, that.
Yeah.
How many?
Yes.
I don't actually know how many minutes are in a mag, but, they must have really prepared those things, and now it's just all kind of like, all right, let's keep fucking.
Put another card in.
Fucking
Put another
asshole,
card
can't
in.
improv,
Put another
can't
card in.
improv. Like,
Yeah.
and you're like, geez, fucking shoot me. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
No,
I want you to be doing the improv, like, not fucking, like I said, Tommy Nobody. That guy fucking sucks. So, that's the takeaway here. All right?
Nobody, don't
Nobody's
hire
on the
him.
next
Don't
one.
hire Tommy
One more
Nobody.
fucking movie with that guy. I'm like, I'm sick of playing your love interest, pal.
The thing that you said about being subversive, an example of that is, for me, the most subversive sketch in our show, one of the most subversive sketches in our show is the Les Mis sketch. Because I don't care what you think. We think this is funny. I'm a person of color, he's a person of color, and we're going to play two revolutionaries from the early 19th century.
Yeah, I mean, look at Hamilton, you know.
Yeah, Hamilton.
Yeah, I
we
mean-
did Hamilton before Hamilton did Hamilton.
Okay.
No, I did not just say that. That was obnoxious as fuck. But do you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
that's the subversive thing. The subversive thing is like, well, but we can't hire Idris Elba as Bond. Well, why not? Well, we can't. But isn't he a badass? Yes. Isn't he good? Yes. Does every woman on planet Earth want him? Yes.
Yeah.
That's James Bond. That's James Bond. You know what I mean? So yes, we're gonna put him in the movie. So yeah, but the subversive thing is, there's this crazy radical idea that people of color are human beings. That we're scared and we have vanity and we want our share of the thing, and we want to love and be loved and have genuine connections, and can I not lie out of fear and actually tell the truth about things all the time? Just like everybody else. It's just, it's like, I don't know, these scenes, these sketches, these skits that you guys do, it's just, you guys are so clever, and I'm like, why? We're just people who have the same problems. I don't understand what the issue is.
Yeah, I mean, it's same deal with like being a woman, obviously. I mean, I don't know. I don't have like a ton of husbands and kids or whatever people do. Like, I mean, that's like not my bag. So maybe it will be. But I'm just saying, I mean, I am like a woman that's like, I moved out of the house at 16. I like, self-supporting and like do my own thing. And then like people come and go, So the idea that you're always an ancillary character. And I would say, similarly as, somebody who plays gay like 99% of the time, I feel like it's exactly the same thing, which is like, what the fuck are we talking about? Why is there even a question of like, so what's it like playing a gay character? Like, it really becomes a question of like, how dare you ask me that question?
You mean a human character who's gay?
Like, it just becomes really confusing. There's, like, why are we singling? I mean, on so many levels, it becomes out like, what's it like being like a woman in film? What's it like being like a woman in comedy? What's it like, like it's always, everything is so segregated for reasons unknown to me in 2016. Like, really perplexing. You would really think that we're way past. I mean, we've transcended it so many times in terms of like, there's been such wide scale international popularity of like sort of every species at this point, that it's really perplexing that we're still asking that question, So yeah, like that.
All right, well, let me open it up to you guys for questions. Just raise your hand right there.
First of all, I've got to say, so totally agree with what you say about acting. Okay, I can talk really loud. Okay. So my question is, that's much better. I like this. My question is, to both of you, did you come out of the womb wanting to act, or did you decide later in life that that's what you were going to do?
My mother will tell you that I came out of the womb wanting to act.
Okay.
Which is an interesting thing. I didn't know that was a thing you could do. My parents were social workers, and like, how do you even do that?
Right.
And I imagine if you're a kid in Los Angeles, it might be possible that your parents would know somebody who's in the industry, and that becomes
Right.
normalized.
Right.
But I didn't know that's what I wanted to do. My mother and my father encouraged me to do what I wanted, but I was like, I don't dare dream to do something like that.
Okay.
Then I did, but they encouraged. Then I did my career. Then I found my biological mother, long story. And then my mother looked at my biological mother and went, oh, okay, yep, you're an actor. Because they could say that I was who she was.
Okay.
And that's what that should have been. So it was just, there was never, I don't think I had any choice in the matter.
Okay, you're programmed.
I actually basically did come out of the womb acting. I mean, by 6 years old, this was like my profession. I mean, my SAG card is, from when I'm like 5 or 6. I was on Pee-wee's Playhouse by the time I was like 7. And I don't remember, I don't really remember leaning in either direction. I was just sort of already doing it. I was definitely sort of like a show kid, like somebody who liked to entertain. But I do, for sure, like they took me to like the first audition and I was like crying hysterically, like terrified.
But you never did Mickey Mouse.
No, I never did Mickey Mouse. But then I would say that for me, actually, the experience was like as an adult, figuring out like, oh, this is something I want to do. And for so many things that we've sort of like alluded to, in this talk even of like, heartbreak over, what I thought being in the movie business would be versus what it was. I think really, got me down as like a teenager who was really just functioning on like, fucking, I have hopes and dreams. Like, cool. What would Chris Walken do? Like, let's do this thing. Yeah. And then like discovering like at so many levels that it was, sort of a corrupt system. And I don't think I really had like the abilities yet to sort of like, carve my own fucking piece of the pie. Like over there, I don't care how small that corner is, but I'm gonna stand over here and like, let me know when you guys wanna see me. So I had to really find my way back into this business again as a choice instead of like, parents' decisions.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Right back there.
Hi, my name is Ali. I'm from Nigeria originally. We started out making home video. It was like a joke, and it became serious. And now we're the third largest movie producing company, industry rather, in the world. So my point is, we're trying to compete with Hollywood actually. What would be your best advice? Because I'm pretty sure you must have seen some few clips of Nigerian, but what would be your best advice to compete with American Hollywood? Thank you.
That's a stumper.
I mean, it's always really the same answer in a way, which is just like, you just got to keep doing your own little thing. I mean, even when you look at sort of people that get, forgotten by, or like in their time, they're not recognized or something, but then they sort of get discovered 20 years later or something. I think it's that whole idea of just having a sense of self and, being true to whatever, your vision of that is. I think that's kind of what makes a thing ultimately like recognizable and pop, even if it takes a second, or something like that.
Yeah, because because I think everybody that you see, everybody who makes their way into our industry, whatever you want to call it, at the upper echelon of the industry. Because if you're saying Hollywood, then I think that you're meaning more than anything the studio system and how that works. It's what she just said about that slice of pie. If you can dominate that slice, and I don't want to dominate sounds pejorative, but if you can flourish in that slice of pie, then eventually you if you know what the why is, then you'll eventually find an audience. And the thing is, for me, I don't know how to answer your question, but I might hopefully be able to give some insight in how you can be fulfilled as an artist. Whether or not you get to make, it doesn't happen all the time, but it happens. When I was here in 2013, a friend of mine made a movie, sweet movie it ended up being called Kings of Summer. It's called House of Toy. Lovely, lovely movie. He is in Vietnam right now shooting Skull Island. Yeah, King Kong, Skull Island. His second feature. Whatever this cost, Skull Island?
Men in Hollywood.
You know what I mean? But so now, yes, you're not going to get, that's the problem. There's still double, but I'm just saying, all he did was write a script. He saw a script that resonated with him, worked on it, and directed this little picture. And so he knew what his niche was, and he knew what was making him feel passionate. So he just did it. I just think you're right. There's nothing else to do.
Yeah, but that's really what that, another way of saying that is really saying like sort of redefining for the short term what your definition of Hollywood is.
Correct.
Is a way of saying that. So in other words, like to see it at kind of, stages and really just stay very close to like, okay, my little version of this thing, this is my story to tell, this is the way I want to tell my stuff. And then if it fucking hits, it's incidental and it's all good news. Rather than saying, that's the whole problem with like corruption. That's why we all hate this kind of like Kardashian culture bullshit or whatever. It's like the reason it's so unpalatable to like a human being is it just feels like, it's all about fame for fame's sake. And, and it feels like dangerous. And they're trying to
manufacture something.
Yeah, it feels like dangerous for our culture. All my children, I feel so worried for them. And speaking as a mother, I worry for them with their cell phones and thinking that this is like,
this is the end.
But that this is like the marker of like a life well and, importantly lived is like, that you're online in a photograph. So, of course, the definition of Hollywood is sort of like making it and getting your picture taken, which I'm sure it's not, sir. then it's fucking broken, and you're never gonna win. Or maybe you will, but it'll be you'll be the hot
It'll
little
be
man.
compromised, yeah.
Right there.
Richard Linklater, his pieces were here, and he's such a Plan B kind of guy. What are you guys thinking about, if you can define it, in terms of your production companies or the projects you'd like to do?
Yeah, for me, right now, as I'm speaking to you, there's a varied amount of things that I'd like to do. Like be able to make a small film, and then also have my production company have something to do with the movie that Jordan and I are coming out with. For me, I like to do films, like a lot of films that make a point from an earlier time. Those kind of films always resonate with me, like a period piece, like John Adams, going, so politics is just the same, but they were dealing with these issues, and also dealing with films that deal with the subject of, for me, like the subject of honor and what honor still means amongst humans. I'd like to work on films that are about that. Doesn't matter if they're small or we have a little more money to buoy them. And if I could find, like for me, the perfect amalgam would be movies that are kind of like women-centric and also about honor. And it came from me being at the Second City when I was in Chicago and Detroit, like 20 years ago. And my friends who were women are trying to dissect, like, what's a woman's scene? Like, we're trying to, like, Bechdel the hell out of it and go, how about the four of us are not in it? It's just the two of you, but you're not talking about guys. And how about, and you're also not victimizing or backstabbing each other. And then you're going, which is why I'm just plugging a show, but it's why I'm so proud of being on Playing House on USA. I'm very proud of that show, and I'm proud of the ladies who created that show, because they have a nurturing, real relationship that doesn't feel girly. It just feels like we're gonna make it through. Humans. We just happen to be humans with vaginas who are gonna make it through. And so that would be, you know what I mean? Like finding more stuff about where we can look at a different time, a different era, and glean something from that era. That's kind of the direction. If all my dreams came true, those are all the movies I would make. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to be in those. So
They should all star Natasha Lyonne.
you should just let me know. I'll give you whatever email
Some
number.
18th century heroine.
I'll give you my Twitter if you want or whatever. However you like to communicate. I mean, I would piggyback on that and just be like, I'm so fucking sick of like small talk. I don't understand why people communicate that way. Like, I just feel like there's a lot of, issues in the world, like, or certainly in the world of certain things I'm developing that are like, if I was gonna do something about, a girl in New York City, there are so many issues that we make such a big deal out of that, like, I never fucking deal with. You know what I mean? Just in terms of, like sort of a small talk and like I'm never like, hey, how was your weekend? Oh, that's great. Like, you just like lay right in, like just give me some truth. You know what I mean? And I really want to see, like you're saying, sort of like women be allowed to do that. In a way, I think about like Louis, for example, and that show, and how he's really allowed to just sort of fucking exist and be like, epically flawed, sometimes be like, plot heavy, and sometimes sort of be plot nothing, just existing. Like, whatever, just like that scene of like Martin Sheen in Apocalypse Now, just like staring at the fucking at the fan. Like, just like, why can't women do that kind of a thing? Like, why can't a fucking woman just like look out a window? And I don't mean in a romantic sort of nostalgic way, but more like she's like, what's going on out there? All right, like, keep it moving, have sex, don't talk about it, you know what I mean? Like, get a job, who cares? Sleep with a girl, sleep with a boy, like, what? Like, just enough with this, like, pretending like everything is so high stakes and like everybody isn't broken. Everybody is fucking broken. So I just don't understand why, like, that's always like the big reveal in a TV show or something is like, and then on this episode, this one breaks, and it's like. Yeah, it seems like that'd probably just be like a day in life. Like, more the way people function is like they break for small sections of the day but continue to function. So like, I want to see stuff that is about that sort of like removes like a bit of the shame from being human.
Yeah, I love female Louis, like you're saying, like a female, or like Tilda Swinton in Michael Clayton, or Tilda Swinton in anything. Yeah. But Tilda Swinton, Michael Clayton, she's just like, I am overwhelmed. You know what I mean? And anybody worth their salt, male or female, could have played that role. But they picked Tilda Swinton because it's just like I'm in a hard way here, man. I am.
That's a great case of a face, okay? Like we're talking about. I mean,
yes.
by the way, that's a face not really built for comedy. Let's get honest. All right, so take that, Tilda Swinton. But yeah, I mean, like I fucking wake up. I mean, I read shit all the time. I'm like, fuck. If I just look like Tilda Swinton, I'd be perfect for this. Never gonna happen. I didn't get that part. Love Tilda Swinton.
I think we got time for one more right there. Her?
I like the way you guys worked that out.
That was great. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for being such a gentleman. Appreciate it. So first of all, a proposal and then an actual question. So at the festival this year, there is a film called Southside with You about a young Barack Obama and Michelle Obama going on an imagined first date. It's a feature narrative. Can we somehow get a young Luther to get involved and do some sort of clip on YouTube or something? Because I think that would be amazing.
We can talk about that.
I'm not involved in the film, but just thought I'd throw that out there. And then, so the question is, you know, for both of you, you have both had to wait for something, for your careers to catch up with something you've wanted, right? To fall in love with it again or to get the work you wanted. So for anybody here in this room who's early on in their careers and just waiting for reality to catch up with their dreams and to do what they know they can do, what would you say?
What a nice last question.
That's a beautiful last question. I mean, not to sound redundant, but when you said that thing about having that piece of the pie, it's. I think that's where it is. I mean, one of the EPs on our show used to say all the time. One of our EPs was one of the founding members of the Upright Citizens Brigade, and he would say, you have to do your thing and just trust that they're there. They're gonna be there. It's gonna happen. You're gonna find a following, and that. As long as you've heard this, everybody says this, but we keep saying it because it's true, that if you're true to yourself, then there's going to be someone, your work will resonate so much with somebody that person who you don't know will become your advocate. They'll become, in this day and age, they'll become your advocate. They're the one that will share your video or your short film with their friends. So the more specific you make your dreams and your hopes and your fears and you put that in your work, the more you do that, the more those people become your advertisers for you. They go, man, I just saw this thing and it just spoke to me and it really moved me. Watch, they couldn't do this when Cassavetes was making movies. I can't just hand Kyle, I can't hand you a phone and go, watch it now. And now we can. They used to say, you, come over here. This is the great, look at this running horse in the Nickelodeon. This is the best running horse Nickelodeon there is, yes. If you want to see Walking Man, you'll have to go to 7th and 20th, you know what I mean? So we're doing the same thing. I don't know, that was a 40s voice, not an 1890s voice. I'm ashamed of myself. But that would be my answer. It's like you have to tell the story that's most human and to you. You are specific. Specific, Tilda Swinton specific, I'm specific, everybody's specific. Everybody's specific. Don't worry about that part. Just tell a nice, clean, streamlined human story, and you're good to go. All the specific stuff, it's there. It's on top already. It's on top already. So that's what I'd say, is just drill into it. Drill into the thing that makes it specific, and then let those people who resonate the most with it, they'll be your advertisers.
Yeah. I mean, I would piggyback on that, but just by saying, you know, it is like we all have like egos, we all are specific, but filmmaking in particular it is a collaborative fucking art form. There's no way around it. Like, even if you want to just be like a madman, Herzog's got to work with people. Like everybody.
I was just about to say
Herzog.
Herzog.
Like Oliver Stone's got to work with people. Like it doesn't matter how much you're like, this is my thing. But so it's like you're saying. I mean, just surrounding yourself with the people that you really feel like I can trust this person. It's such like human instinct to constantly like, by nature, it's like we pick ourselves apart. We're all our own worst and toughest critics. So it's not uncommon to be like, I really loved that fucking panel, but I was like, I just wish his shoelaces were different. And like start, you know what I mean? Like you start picking apart the people that you work with because they're your allies. And really to remember that like, yeah, it's all about allies. Like, talk up the people around you. I mean, so much of I think like that's a great shift that's happening for women now is like everybody's becoming more collaborative and supportive instead of like society telling us to be competitive with each other. We're like, oh wait, that's a fucking old idea. That's not how I feel. So like really building each other up and being on the more, you know, positive. Yeah, it's fun to be like aesthetically, it's more palatable to be sarcastic and sort of like snarky and like, you know, self-deprecating and towards other people like a jerk. But really being a little bit on the more like positive skew is very fucking helpful, you know?
It's a challenge and helpful.
Yeah,
but
it's hard to do.
harder.
That's
like
my
you said,
point.
yeah,
it's like
much
it's
harder
not a
to do.
natural instinct to be like, you know, a fucking arty makeup and a positive person. It's like exact opposites. And so like, but just to like also not, it's a real challenge for me to like not talk shit about like my own projects. Like that was, I really got in trouble, American Pie. I mean, like I brought like a pop gun to the press, you know, the press junket.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like, you know, when Shannon Elizabeth would talk, I'd be like, I don't like that answer. And they kicked me out. Like, don't do that. You know what I mean? Be like, support the project.
Right.
Well, on that note, let's support our amazing guests. That was a great conversation. Have a good Sundance.